Previously on M.V.P.Knight talking about my adventures with Superman.
You want to call in more Kryptonians?
You want to call in more alien scum? More Xeno scum? Well, no offense, Clark, but Xeno scum? He should at least be shirtless to increase sunlight absorption.
You control the outcome of this day. The universe gives what you...
I might hate her, but I kind of wish I could wake up in the morning and say that to myself. If I was Clark, I would say, honey, I love you, but you're an orphan now. Just accept it. This version of Kara had better not be anything like the CW version of Supergirl, because that one was no good.
But that would mean leaving Metropolis.
Nothing lasts forever.
Yeah, well, yo mama won't last forever.
How do you take your coffee?
I like my coffee hot enough to burn the hairs off of my head.
So make sure to leave it on your way out. Wouldn't want to have to arrest one of Metropolis's heroes for stealing.
Now get him out of here before he steals my hair, too. I have decided to just do brief breakdowns of Season 2, Episode 4 and Season 2, Episode 5, because quite frankly, I did not like those episodes. Season 2, Episode 4 was such painful, forced drama. There's two plots, one with Clark and Jimmy going to this convention, which ended up being an anti-Superman thing. Despite the fact that Jimmy was defending Superman, Clark just assumes that Jimmy was against him for no reason, really. And then Jimmy didn't just clarify that he wasn't saying trash about him for no reason. And the other plots of the episode was Lois and her dad bickering about him not being there for her and trying to leave to make her safer, and flashbacks of him being a weird, cold father. And I'm so sick of Lois's dad. He has no redeeming qualities, and he puts the characters through so much turmoil, and yet no one fights back against him, and the script seems to expect you to still care about him and want him to patch things up with Lois, maybe, but I don't want that. Lois keeps trying to help her dad and still have a relationship with him, but I don't want him to get help. He's been a nuisance this entire time. There's a moment near the end of the episode when Clark is listening to Lois and her dad, and her dad says that Clark is different, and then Lois says he is, and then Clark flies off, and then Lois says, but that's what I love about him. And it's so frustrating because Clark should know that just because she agrees that he's different, that doesn't mean she's insulting him. And Superman has super hearing, so he should have been able to hear her say, that's what I love about him. So Superman contacts his cousin, and in the next episode, Season 2, Episode 5, Kara shows up in Metropolis, and Jimmy shows her around, and it's pretty dime a dozen fish out of water stuff that they go through. Meanwhile, there's this eligible bachelor thing that Clark and Lois are covering, and Superman is one of the contestants. People start talking about Superman and Silver possibly being in a relationship or something, and Lois gets super intimidated, even though, okay, there's one thing that they did do well. Before Superman got into the contest, Lois told him specifically not to let anyone know that they're in a relationship. She wanted him to pretend that he's a bachelor. So it would have been very insulting if she had been mad at him for getting flirted on by Silver. Instead of her being mad at him, what she does is she thinks that she's not as good as Silver and maybe Superman would be better off with someone like Silver. It's not as bad as it could have been. I just don't understand why at this point Lois is still this insecure in their relationship. And then the worst thing of all, Kara finds Superman and she challenges him to a fight. Apparently, she's been raised by the robot villain thing, and I think that it was her and not General Zod that we saw at the end of Season 1. And then there was the results of that fight. I am convinced that Supergirl is trying to defeat my mental health. I can't believe that they made me go through this again. I can't believe that they made me watch Supergirl beat Superman again. At least this time we know that he wasn't trying, and she had extra technology to put the odds in her favor, so it's not as insulting to Superman's character. Superman is the guy who created superheroes as we know them today. Supergirl is not that. I don't want to hear any accusations of sexism. Superman is a more important character than Supergirl, and he always will be. If Robin beat Wonder Woman in a fight, and the reason why they had him win is because he's a man, you would not stand for it. So you should not stand for Supergirl beating Superman because she's a woman. Now I'm going to go into Season 2, Episode 6, and I had better see Superman beat Supergirl at least once between now and the end of the season. If my demands are not met, I will declare this a disappointing season.
You kidnapped me?
And you can't just hold people against their will.
She certainly cannot. Now beat her up for it. Note that he does not need a jacket in space. I don't think Clark needs a jacket unless there's someone around to see him without a jacket.
We will both return to Earth when we conquer it for the Empire. All that soft living has made your brain bad and weak.
Clark, if you heard a man talking like this, you'd beat him up. You should beat her up.
Kal-El, kneel before father.
You better not.
Why?
Good man, Superman does not kneel. Thank you for finally doing something with your powers, Superman.
War was the engine which fueled the Empire.
Yes, that's more goodness, thank you. I like this place, it's getting him to fight better. Maybe he should stay here for a few weeks before going back? Well, not if they're going to do this.
I'm going to take Kara away from this place.
He's going to take her back to Earth and he's going to beat her up there.
I just need you to kneel.
No. No, he was forced to do that, so we'll say it doesn't count.
No! I couldn't. I don't remember.
I got her to change her ways pretty quick. I was expecting her turnaround to be at the end of the season. Let's not freak out just yet. I know Supergirl has changed her ways already, but there's still hope that Brainiac can use his mind control on her one more time so that Superman can fight and beat her. That's the only way to save the season. And it must happen. This episode, unfortunately, did not have Superman beat up Supergirl, and his reaction to being kidnapped was almost like the reaction to being pranked with a water balloon instead of being kidnapped. But apart from that, it was alright-ish, I guess. I like the way Brainiac operates, I guess. Brainiac showed a few people whose consciousnesses had been digitized, and they also showed us planets that had been laid waste to. I'm guessing that when Brainiac says he's trying to build an empire, what he's actually doing is digitizing a bunch of people and making them his digital empire or something like that. That's my guess anyway. Normally Brainiac's motivation is to just collect all the information about everything and destroy everyone else who had that information, so he's the only one who knows everything. This is the first time I've ever heard of him trying to build an empire. So his plan might be to trap everybody in a glorified social media virtual reality thing. If that's his plan, he could brag about stuff like no more hunger or stuff like that, and perhaps no more death. And if he does that, then of course Superman would be able to say stuff like, that also means no more babies or no more free will, something like that. And Brainiac talked about there being an old Kryptonian empire. I'm pretty sure that Jor-El was saying that they were not conquerors. So either Jor-El or Brainiac are lying. I'm inclined to think that Kryptonians did not conquer planets back in the day, because if they had, it would make more sense for there to be a lot more Kryptonians who had gone over to police the other worlds under their control. And if that was the case, then there would have been a lot more Kryptonians around who survived the destruction of Krypton. Perhaps when Brainiac talked about the old empire, he was just referring to the Empire of Krypton that only existed on Krypton. I thought that the way Brainiac was manipulating Supergirl was kind of interesting, but I did not like what they were doing with Superman and Supergirl, because they skipped straight from her kidnapping him to playing a snowball fight. There's a few in-between steps that have gone missing. Just gonna talk briefly about Season 2, Episode 7. This episode is a waste of time. First of all, Superman is not in this episode, ergo, bad episode. Second of all, this episode is all about Jimmy and Lois having dumb plans, like teaming up with supervillains, and going off with plans to fight Supergirl, with no superpowers. Third of all, these supervillains are rewarded for their crimes, and we're expected to be happy about that. You could skip this entire episode and not be confused, because all you need to know is Lois and Jimmy got on spaceship and found Supergirl, which is what you knew from watching the end of the last episode. So remember to like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, and hope that Superman beats up Supergirl before the end of the season.